All right, welcome to LewTube and Understanding Slope Notes. This is part two of Understanding Slope Notes, and right now on the screen in front of you is the lesson I did on part one. And so if you are interested, you can go look up in my LewTube videos for Understanding Slopes part one. Understanding Slope Part 1, and I go over all this stuff about slope, positive slopes, negative slopes, and special slopes. And today's lesson is part 2, and this one I'm going to do finding the slope when you're given 2 points, and we're not going to use a graph or a grid. Okay, so we're going to do this using the formula. And the formula that we tend to use for this, I'm going to just maximize my screen just a touch here so see it a little bit better, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so m represents slope, so this is just another way of saying slope. By now, hopefully you're familiar with the concept or the term m is slope. And then y2 minus y1, this really represents our rise, and then this here represents our run, x2 minus x1. And slope is rise over run, and this is the mathematical way of doing it. And what we're doing is we're saying if we take the y value of 0.2 and find the difference between it and the y value of 0.1, we get our rise. So that makes sense because rise goes up and down the y-axis, and then our run is the same thing. We take the x value of 0.2 and we subtract the x value of 0.1, and we get a run, which is really our horizontal value, and that gives us our rise and run, and we can put it into the equation. Now, when we're given this, it's really, really, really important to recognize you have 2 points, and those 2 points, in this case, usually A and B, I'm going to call this point 1, and so if this is the first point, this is my x1. And then this here would be my y1 with respect to these 2 points in the equation. And then here is my x2, and here is my y2, okay? Now, there's no reason that I could not flip these two and call this one x, this one here could be x1 and y1, and this one x2 and y2. That can be done. It doesn't matter, but it's important that you don't switch one of the x's and not the y that corresponds with it. You can't call this x1 and this y2. That's just not right. You can't do that. Okay, you have to, they associate together because they are part of the point together. So when we're solving this, usually the first step, almost always with me, is just to write out the equation. So it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then the next step is to substitute in. Okay, so where's my y2? Well, my y2 is over here. It's 7. And it's going to be subtract y1. y1 is 4. Okay, and then over top of x2, which is 5, subtract 1, which is x1. And that will work out. I'll just write my answer here. M equals 7 take away 4 is 3. 5 take away 1 is 4, and so there's my slope. It's 3 over 4. And this essentially relates to my rise, and this essentially relates to my run of my line, or the line that would go between these 2 points, okay? So the slope of the line that would pass through those 2 points. And this one is intentionally set up to be very easy. I've got all positive numbers. I've made it nice and simple. Subtraction's great. It gets more complicated here as we go into the next one, and that is when I'm going to use negative numbers, and we'll do the same thing. But before we do it, I really strongly encourage kids to really think about this. This is going to be my x1. This is going to be my y1. This is going to be my x2. This is going to be my y2. And then I'm going to use my equation, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now I'm going to substitute in, okay? m is going to equal y2, which is minus 3. Now, what you're going to see me doing whenever I start getting into negatives, I start putting the numbers always in little brackets. And this just helps me identify positives and negatives a little better. Then I put my subtraction sign, and then I say subtract y1, which is in this case 4. Okay? And this will help me when I'm doing my math later, not making as many mistakes. If you're going to even plug it into your calculator, it's a really good idea to just even put those brackets in. You might not need to put the bracket around the positive numbers, but around the negative numbers, it really helps with making sure you get your right answers, because that usually tends to be the problem, is these negative signs. Now we're going to have 3, okay, minus negative 2. Okay, and this is where it becomes really interesting, and now I want to do my mathematics here and solve this. So if I do this, this is minus 3, and then I'm going to subtract 4. Well, that's like being on a number line if I think about it, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go backwards 4. That's going to bring me to minus 7. So I'm going to have minus 7 on the top, okay? And over here, I'm at positive 3. 1, 2, 3, and minus a minus is going to turn into a positive. Like I've got a double negative here. So it's like I'm going to go this way. Oh no, I got to turn around and go back again. And so it's going to actually take me forward to positive 5, from 3 up to 5. And so I end up with 5 here. And again, if you're going to use your calculator for these little calculations, that's fine, but just be very careful. You put your little brackets in and you show that, especially for your negative numbers. And so I end up with minus 7 over 3. And so this could be written just like this, or it can be written as minus 7 over 5, because this helps tell me that the rise is going to be 7, the run is going to be 5, and it's going to go up to the left. Okay, so it's really telling me 5 units this way, 7 units this way, and up to the left. It's not to the right. If it was up to the right, it would be positive, would be this way. It's a negative slope going that way. Okay, no need to graph it, just doing a visual representation for you. Okay, the best way to work with these is do a bunch of practice. So I do have some worksheets where you can practice working on these quite a bit. Okay, now this can be used extensively or quite comfortably to help us find the equation of the line that passes through the following 2 points. Okay, so what we can do is we can use this to calculate our slope. Okay, so again, when I'm going to do slope, first thing I kind of do is I go x1, y1, right? x2, y2. Now, of course, this is not necessary to write that, but I find it somewhat helpful for students when they do write that, because they're less likely to make mistakes, okay? Then I write my equation out, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? And I start substituting my values in. So m, y2 is 5, subtract, and it's 2, okay? So that's going to be easy. That's going to be 3, okay? And then the next one is going to be x2, 4, and it's going to be minus 2. And so you notice the only one I put in brackets is the negative value here at minus 2. And that's just because, it makes my life easier if I minimize the amount of brackets. Now, I'm going to get my slope here to be 3 over top of, believe it or not, 6. This is going to be 2 negatives makes a positive, so this is going to be 3 on the top, 5 minus 2, and then 4 minus 2 is actually going to be 6. Okay, and most students will quickly realize that that's going to simplify to 1/2. Okay, so how do I find the equation of a line given this? Okay, so we've done the part up above that made sense. Now this is the new part that I'm going to add into this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say we know that for any equation y equals mx plus b. Okay, well, we know our m value, and we can take a point, either of these 2 points. It does not matter to me which one, and I can use them as my x and my y. Okay, but whatever I do, if I take this point, I have to use the x and y from it. If I take this point, I have to use the x and y from it. Now, because I'm not a big fan of negative numbers, I'm actually going to choose to use the b value because there's no negatives in it. So this is going to be my x right here, 4, and y is going to be my 5 is going to be my y value. So what I'm going to do, oh, look at that, I zoomed in a little bit. Maybe that makes it easier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say 5 is going to come in and replace this guy. So 5 equals, what's my m value? It's 1/2. So I'm going to put 1/2 in here. That's going to multiply by my 4, which is my x value. So the 4 and the 5 came from this point here. I could have used the -2 for x and the 2 for y. It didn't matter. And then I'm going to have plus b. And the cool thing about this is that I can now find the value of b out of this. And once I have my b and my m, I can write the equation of my line. So I multiply these two together. That equals 5 equals 1/2 times 4 is 2 plus b. And if I solve this out, I get b equals 3. In other words, subtract 2 here, subtract 2 here, b equals 3, and I just reverse the writing of it. Okay, so now I know my b equals 3, my m equals 1/2, and so therefore the equation of the line is y equals 1/2 x plus 3, and it's a positive 3, so it's plus. And there is the equation of my line right there. And this method can be used over and over again anytime to find the equation of a line when 2 points are given. Some people will actually go as far as writing this. This gets pretty wonky. Yeah, I'm not even going to go to it, but they'll sometimes put this value right here right into the equation for m, and it gets this really funky big long thing. I much prefer to break it down. Calculate your value of your m, substitute that into y equals mx plus b, steal an x and a y from your one of your 2 points, and then I can calculate for b and find my equation of my line. All right. Hopefully that's fairly useful, and we have some questions for you to practice this with, and you'll enjoy your lesson. All right. See you next time on LouTube.